Alexei, can we get started? Check 1, 2. Okay. Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here at COP28 at the Digital Innovation Pavilion. My name is Hania Othman. I'm the Director of Sustainable Impact. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hania Othman. I'm the Director of Sustainable Impact at the HBAR Foundation. Today we're at the Digital Innovation Pavilion at COP28, and it's my pleasure to have this panel here where we have a discussion on how private finance and digital innovation can drive carbon market growth under Article 6. So it's my pleasure to have these panelists next to me. I will be introducing the topic very briefly. We are an important point of time where private finance, the alignment of private finance and digital innovation can drive improved and immense potential of finances towards the carbon market and also in further improved distribution regarding that. So Article 6 outlines 3 approaches, which is Article 6 which is basically 6.2, which focuses on the bilateral collaborations for emission reductions. 6.4, which is establishing a UN-controlled mechanism for carbon credit trading, and 6.8, emphasizing non-market strategies. Okay, yeah. Article 6 has the potential to facilitate resources towards developing countries and driving investments upwards and emissions downwards. With that being said, I would like to kickstart by allowing our panelists here to introduce themselves, starting with Jacinda next to me, allowing her to do her introduction, and then we'll start the panel.
Thank you so much, Hania. I'm Jacinda Njike, originally from Chicago, but based in Cameroon. I am working with the high-level climate champions team as the Africa Finance lead, and we're working on various carbon market accelerators, as well as different project finance accelerators in order to help unlock the climate finance flow, not only in Africa, but in other regions where we are engaging with different United Nations economic commissions. So that's our reason for being here today, and we really look forward to collaborating with EverCity and the HBAR Foundation on how we can utilize these digital tools to really accelerate these projects and the finance flow.
Thank you very much. My name is Idrissa Jata. So I am an executive Article 6 project designer, partnered with ALLCOT, ALLCOT through SONAGED in waste management sector in Senegal. And we aim to be the frontliner of innovative and digital tools in waste management specifically and globally in climate finance in Senegal. But we want to be the hub in the West Africa, so definitely it's quite challenging. And I think digital, the idea is that Africa have to be in the at the driving seat when we talk about digital climate, and that's why we are here. And we are very keen to discuss and engage with all the stakeholders around innovation and digital, and it's a need anyway. So I'm very glad to be and share the panel with all you guys.
Thank you, Idrissa. I'll use this mic because this one doesn't seem to be working. That one's off. I'm Rich Gilmour, the CEO of Carbon Growth Partners. We are specialists investment managers in the carbon market. And we try to think of ourselves as climate and ecological and social problem solvers. And our approach to financing projects in places like West Africa, that I'm sure we'll get to today, is to think how can we help countries like Senegal, as a real example, achieve their aspirations for a safe climate and prosperous community under Article 6 and other mechanisms.
Hi, my name is Raphaël. I'm the co-founder of ALLCOT.io, which is the digital arm of ALLCOT, a carbon project developer that has been operating over 13 years. And we're actually leveraging digital tools and new technologies in order to deliver more impact-driven results at carbon project level.
So, Raphael, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for the rest of the panelists for that introduction. We can start, and I would say let's start to understand these synergies. And I would like to start with Idrissa. Idrissa, we obviously visited together. We were in Senegal and visited some facilities also with Sonaged, and explained a little bit about your partnership with Carbon Growth. But I would like to start with the question to you, as you are the digital person at Sonaged. What digital innovations do you see accelerating the growth of the carbon markets under Article 6?
Okay, thank you for the question. It will be very difficult for me to have a straight answer, but let's do some philosophy. When we talk about carbon markets, it's quite challenging right now because we are seeing all the articles through the internet and all the discussions we are having here at the COP. And it has to be seen as a true disruptive way to collapse, to have this bridge really collapsing between what we so-called developing countries and but the very big problem is maybe it has to be really transparent. The market has to be transparent. And when we talk about digital, it is all about enhancing transparency because everyone can see everything at the same time. So the first thing digital can help leverage is enhance the transparency. But at the same time, it can accelerate what we call development, because development has to have a definition, and definition of development is quite difficult because it depends on a multi-criteria system where people can talk about the development. But it's clear that digital enhances transparency, and it can be a common basis for everyone. And going forward, we do know that Africa at certain point have missed a lot of things when we talk about development, when we talk about the third industrial revolution, for instance. And right now we are talking about the fourth revolutions when we talk about digital innovation applicate in the climate area and discussions. So here is the time to really go for it. And I think the Africa potential is its youth. And when we talk about youth, we talk about energy, we talk about new ideas. And in Senegal, we are lucky to partner with ALLCOT and Carbon Growth in a project in the waste management. And we aim to have the very first digital MRV within the projects. So we want to showcase that it's possible and it can accelerate and enhance the transparency, as well as really put value in the carbon market perspective, because this market needs real strengths based in the transparency first, and then the innovation for sure can help to engage the community. For instance, what we want to do at a certain horizon is that the local community with a mobile wallet can receive the reward when we talk about climate mechanism or climate finance. There is just technology and innovation in technology which you can bring the gap, bridge the gap. How we say that? Bridge the gap. That's exactly my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. So speaking about bridging the gap, Rich, obviously we also met in Senegal. can you discuss a case where Carbon Growth Partners has facilitated in terms of bridging that gap of financing?
Thanks, Hania. Yeah, and let's use that example. So Carbon Growth Partners was the financier of the world's first private sector funded ITMO transaction. In fact, last year at COP27 in Egypt. And from memory, I think Senegal had signed other agreements at COP26. And I think the money might still be to flow on those. So we signed an agreement at COP27 in which we would finance waste infrastructure in Senegal that would help to solve a big social problem of untreated waste ending up in landfill and generate organic compost for farmers that can deliver agricultural productivity without the use, or with less use, I guess, of synthetic fertilizers that have to be imported. They're expensive, they're subject to supply chain disruptions, and obviously not great for the environment or climate. And the problem that we were trying to solve was, how can Senegal become the sort of in control of their destiny when it comes to an Article 6 deal? Because if you have a buyer country on the buy side of the transaction, then they're in a position to sort of strongly negotiate the price of the ITMO credits that come out of the project. And so we felt that there was a real opportunity for the private sector to step in and provide the finance. We need to generate a rate of return that is acceptable to our investors, but we provide the finance and take all of the financial risk. And then that puts Senegal in the position where it can negotiate its ITMO transactions from a position of strength and seek the highest possible price from the buyer country. If the buyer country provides the finance, then they say, well, if I provide the capital to install the infrastructure, this is the low price at which I want the ITMOs. We really felt that there was a way to chop through that and say, let's insert the private sector into that. And one of the strong features of it that we really like is that there is a direct benefit sharing agreement back to the community from the revenues. And Teresa mentioned a moment ago, sort of digital wallet. One of the things we'd like to see is, how can we ensure that those flows of finance to, say, digital wallets in communities continue after the issuance of the credits? It's a little bit like art or crafts that are retraded from Indigenous peoples and local communities. They get paid the first time, but if that asset then appreciates in value or is retraded, they never see any of the subsequent revenue or price appreciation. Putting the sort of transaction on chain allows that community to get paid every time the credit trades, not just the first time.
Thank you so much, Rich. We have covered quite a few already important subjects, and I would like to tie in how ALLCOT.io, specifically the digital arm of ALLCOT AG, provides a potential solution within the digital solution, the transparency, and so on, enabling that transparency to flow back to the local communities and what that actually means. Raphaël, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Specifically in the context of benefit sharing, this is where we believe like we can have like the most impact. From like a project developer point of view, we are like agnostic to the technology that we can use, to the digital offerings. What we want to be able to do is to like scale up the project and like deliver like much faster like results on the ground, but also like things that technology can enable, such as like instant issuance, instead of like having to go through like a patient process of like getting the credits delivered and then getting like the money flowing back to the community. So we are at a stage where we need to experiment and find like innovators and also like people with ambitions or organizations that have like a motivation to, change the rule sets and like make things happen at a different scale. And maybe not everyone's aware that like this agreement with Sonaged and Carbon Growth is also taking like a huge social impact element that it was not mandatory, which was like a benefit sharing mechanism that you mentioned, that we hope can like streamline a rule set for others to follow and for countries from the global south to have more leverage into like negotiating towards like the buying countries. And when it comes to what Idrissa mentioned, and everybody knows about it, about transparency, we want to enable like a flow of data that is like transparent and can also be correlated. In the current like system, we follow guidelines that are like incentivizing like the minimum information because you will be accountable for like everything that you write in the project development design document. And we want to have like a stream of data that can help us to correlate in order to like make sure that the data is like verified from different point of view, and also like find out like through this stream of data what it can be of interest to some other people. Like we discussed about this project specifically to some other like people in the climate scene, and we find some people in the health sector who told us like if you're able to extract enough data, we can possibly correlate it to the reduction of malaria. And if we're able to do that, it can have an impact even for like at a sovereign level for like reducing the interest rates of like global loans. And so we just basically want to enable like a clean slate where everybody can find like what is relevant to them, and can really help us to do what we are designed to deliver, which is to make the project happen on the ground and be successful.
Thank you, Raphaël. Jacinda, you have quite an impressive background, and obviously working as the Climate Champions Lead for Africa at PwC. We've met in Kenya briefly and had a short discussion. I would love to have your view on a more broader hearing, let's say this project which is actually happening in Africa right now, hearing your broader perspective on how digital innovation can facilitate the carbon markets within Africa taking the lead in this.
Thank you so much, Hania. That's, the Climate Champions, for those of you who don't know, we are part of the UN appointed team to collaborate with non-state actors. And our main role is really to elevate what is being done in the various industries and sectors in order to build partnerships, in order to accelerate the systemic change that needs to take place. And so hearing these projects really gives me, a lot of hope that these are the types of initiatives that when scaled, like you said, when regionalized, when elevated to a higher platform, can have a bigger impact across the globe. And so we really, Dr. Mahmoud Mahildin is the COP27 high-level champion, and then Rasan Mubarak, and she's really focused on nature. And so we really have been saying, it's nature and climate. And I think me and Raphaël said earlier, it's biodiversity credits and carbon credits. It's going to be a collective action that's really going to unlock this. We've actually, as Climate Champions, helped spur the African Carbon Markets Initiative, which, the idea there is to address all of these blocking points that have come up in the African market, to say the integrity, everyone's, the rates that they have relevant to the other carbon, like for voluntary specifically, the pricing of African credits is much lower than in other markets. And so how do we start to fix some of these injustices around the market in our specific region, and more broadly around the globe, to elevate carbon credits? And so ideally, what we've seen is that integrity is really the core. And so data and digital innovations allow us to be able to improve the level of accessibility and transparency for data and other key metrics that investors and other interested parties can link into to really create the value that we know is there. So for example, these waste to energy products or waste to compost projects, which help the on the ground farmers. We know that 90% of businesses in Africa are SMEs, and a large percentage of that are agriculture and other food industries. So their ability to interact in a marketplace like that at such a individually small level is really complicated. And so in order to really aggregate that demand and aggregate that supply, and we need digital tools. So this pavilion really stands for the innovation, right? That needs to happen. And that innovation needs to be around how do we aggregate, how do we accelerate, how do we integrate these different projects and these different innovations in order to move faster. Because the problem is that people want to do the right thing. But one, there's not enough education around this topic. We go in to talk to governments and ministers and communities, indigenous people, and that blank stare of what is a carbon credit. It needs to be integrated into education at every level. And it also needs to be integrated into the government conversations. We started off our engagement, I kind of joke, with the ministers of environment, right? Then the ministers of finance came to the table because what the environmental ministers didn't understand how to integrate the climate finance components into their budgets. They needed the finance ministers. And then this COP, I kind of joke that now we're bringing the trade ministers in. Because in order to really push this, the trade has to come along with the environment and the finance. So it's really a fully integrated approach that we're advocating for to get things moving faster. And so these innovations around digital platforms, around accessibility to data, around the transparency and the quality of the data, right? So it's not only having data available, but it's actually having quality data. And so I think that what you were saying is really, really true. You know, at the end of the day, in order to increase the amount of climate finance that is flowing, we have many financiers on our right side saying, I want to do the right thing. I want to invest. I want to change my portfolio, pension funds, but I have this criteria that must be met. And then you have project developers on this side who are saying, I have the project, I have the innovation, but I can't get through all of these loopholes and then loops that I have to jump through to access the finance. I mean, try to get a GCF, allocation, you're waiting 2 years, minimum just to get through. So what we're really trying to do is say, how can we bring these two sides together in a more efficient and effective way? And I think digital platforms are going to be a really big part of the solution.
Thank you so much, Jacinda. That was amazing. And I think it gives way for the next part. I would like this discussion also to be engaging and for us to just have a conversation with each other. We're no strangers of each other. And I would like to start it off as well with Raphaël. We've announced a partnership with the HBAR Foundation, opening the books on climate finance. Jacinda just mentioned the integration. So integrating and utilizing the digital solutions in order to enable that. And I think a part of that is actually the initiative that you as ALLCOT.io have taken in order to open the books on the project development, the project that you have done. And as the first project developer actually that is going to, go on to this challenge, which is huge. I would like to learn a little bit more about that and share with the room and how you're facilitating that. And thanks.
Yeah, so that's a belief that is at the core of ALLCOT's ethos. There is a strong belief that actually the project should belong to the community. And I think it's a difficult stage where we have difficulties in the current market to define precisely what it means when we say that we redistribute a certain percentage back to the community when we don't have the possibility to have a transparent origination price. So opening the books is about having system that offers to relevant parties an access to all the funding structure of the projects that can be discoverable and that can be transparently disseminated through the different actors, whether it is the project developer and its ecosystem, the investor, but also the community, so that we can streamline after that redistribution process to each parties in a more efficient way that digital platforms offer. Rich was mentioning already the system that technologically is called NFT, about royalty systems from in this case a credit that could actually go through finance market and go through a price discovery process that is kind of a black box at the moment. And there is a lot of negative stream about the fact that some projects are issuing credits at a certain price and then they travel all through, and then this benefit sharing mechanism cannot be traced back, because once the credit has been traded several times and finish at a certain price, then this benefit sharing mechanism is basically sitting down in the biggest capitals of the world, but not to the right people. And so what we are in at the stage now is to basically try to open the way for discussion and positive criticism about the right way to engage in this direction. So this is why, like, first we have found with HBAR Foundation an organization that understood what we were doing and what we wanted to deliver. And I believe there are many other players that are like looking to join, and we need to find like a way to get like a common platform that can be like inclusive and evolving into like a direction that can satisfy all parties that are like around the table to be able to scale up like climate action at like a global level.
Talking about satisfying all parties that are around the table, Rich, you briefly covered the topic on moving from a buyer's to a seller's market. How do you feel that opening the books on climate finance, improving this form of transparency is actually going to add value to this topic, and how is that linked with the social and environmental goals that we're all aiming to achieve here?
I think it's really important from a capital attraction point of view. The investors in this market at the moment are motivated by impact and really sort of willing to take risk that other investors may not. And so many investors, when they look at, say, a place like Senegal, the first thing that comes into their mind is what they would describe as sovereign risk. We would prefer to think of that as resource sovereignty. Those carbon credits, the forests, the land, all of those things are the natural resources of the people and government of Senegal. And so it should be Senegal who's in the leadership position to determine, as they would with any other natural resource, how those carbon credits or carbon assets, if they're projects, are marketed and sold, and to whom and to what price. And one of the things that our investors really want to understand, I mentioned benefit sharing before, is that traceability of where that benefit sharing go. Raphaël mentioned it a moment ago. And so we need to understand, the risks that we're taking. And I think one of the areas in which we really can improve with digital tools is on the due diligence side. There's the traceability that I mentioned already, but when we were making the investment in Senegal, we had to learn about things that we knew nothing about. What is the compost market in Senegal like? Who's going to buy the compost and why and for what price? And that was a pretty analog process for us to go through. And so you've got these really motivated investors who care about traceability, they care about impact. We just need to make it easier for them to make informed investment decisions that also allow Senegal to be in the driving seat for entering into those transactions. And it doesn't need to be like super high tech either. Monsieur Cisse is here from Sonaget, the president, doing really innovative things in transforming household waste. So we need to separate compost if we're going to be able to separate the green waste, if we're going to be able to generate compost. And so we need to put infrastructure in place for that. That infrastructure has a cost. And so rather than sending households an unfamiliar bill once a year or once a month, I partner with the telephone company to add cents a day to their phone bill to be able to provide the infrastructure. So we don't always need to look to really sophisticated new tools. We need to, in part, meet people in communities where they are.
I just wanted to come in because I think you made a very good point. And one of, I mentioned ACME because we're talking carbon markets. One of the focuses is local MRV. So as we mentioned, that's one of the challenges in our market is that, access to data, but also the cost related to MRV, because a lot of it is so internationally based. And so in order to get, real valuable reporting and monitoring, sometimes you got to pay for someone to come from, Switzerland, put them up for 2 weeks and, just to ensure the project is doing what it says it's doing. Whereas we have local auditors, we have local lawyers all through all of these countries who could be in the position to provide that at a lower cost to project developers, to provide that at let's say kind of like to work in partnership with governments, right, to help provide the MRV that they're going to need on an ongoing basis if they set up a compliance market. So these are the types of solutions that, it's not like you said, and then those MRVs need digital platforms. They will need platforms in order to monitor and report and verify the data. So I think that, it's very important that, we not only look at, what we need to put in place from the project developer and government side, but like it's a job enhancing industry. There's so many opportunities to provide, upskilling. Maybe there is a period where outside experts would come in and provide some upskilling to some of the local representatives. But I think that we really have to see all these opportunities can increase the livelihoods. And that's that added value you were talking about. It's not only, getting the community a piece of the credit, it's getting the community a piece of the MRV, it's getting the community a piece of the overall compliance market and ensuring that it's a long lasting, arrangement, because sometimes you have someone drop in and drop out, those things disappear or they're not fit for purpose, right? They don't adapt to the local atmosphere. So by having more local MRV representatives, we can help make sure that the whole process is more fit for the local environments.
Thank you so much, Jacinda. Idrissa, I would love for you to comment on that, because you, as no other, knows the local, let's say, adaptations that need to be made. So I would love to have it from your point of view, and also the project, obviously, that is being created here with Sonaget.
Yes, thank you, Hania. I think I'm totally aligned with what is going on right now in these discussions. I just want to add another perspective as well, so we have to take it into account, and it is based on the principle of subsidiarity. It is very important as well. I totally, I am repeating it a lot. Like when we say as well, we have to have capacity building locally. It is like we cannot negotiate that, because she's true. People have to travel from the north to the south, and we can. You were in Senegal and in Ivory Coast. You have seen the dynamic with the youth, the people, the women, and it is tremendous. We have great nature, capacity, and etc. And the capacity building definitely has to be in the core of all the policies. But at the same time, we don't have to forget the subsidiarity. What I mean about that is that, for instance, I'm just a woman who like to eat banana, but I don't really, if I'm not a banana specialist, where I may be with the banana, with the fiber of the banana, we can have dresses, we can have bags. At the same time, with banana, we have jam. We can process the banana to have a banana jam, right? And it is another expertise. Me as a household, I don't have any clue about how to process banana. It becomes a jam, or how to process the fiber of the banana to become a bag. I'm just interested to go to the market, take my banana at home, and that's it. So it means that we at a certain time, at a certain level, we have to figure out who is doing what and who needs what, and that's at this stage we can identify which tools the population, for instance, needs to buy banana. Maybe it is like an Amazon-like platform to buy banana. At the same time, we will see who is producing the banana in the field. So these people have specific needs as well. So we can design tools which fits their needs, and that's what I'm saying. The subsidiarity. It won't be that everyone has to be in the same table, and we are talking about climate markets, and this is climate markets, and etc. It means that we have to get the perfect pitch which match the targeted people. When we take farmers, for instance, in order to, in my perspective, in my point of view, to build it wisely, it won't be for them to have these technical words in the climate markets and etc. It will be the specific item which we need them to understand in this specific topic, and the specific tools which have to come from their needs, because it is a problem as well in the digital world, where we think that innovation is about being at the laboratory, thinking about great stuff, and going to Mars with that. What we have to do is, if we do the bottom-up approach, where we targeted the people, we know exactly what they are doing, and we take from them the needs they have, then we can push a layer where this is engineering, this is everything which will fit their needs, and that's why in Senegalese process it was very wise, and it was from ALLCOT. ALLCOT proposed us to go with low-tech technology from the Mexican countries, for instance, which we have the same reality, and we are trying to have this technology where we will buy the first equipment, but the second one, we will build it. That's the idea. And it will be locally built, because they have made it local. Because the first side was to see the German technology, which is great, high technology for composting, which integrates computers and everything, all the layers and the graphs, sexy, but very expensive at the same time. So the approach was to go, okay, we just have a tiny of money to make a pilot. What can we do? But we have to do it anyway. And I think going this way will help us, to have local capacity. People will be locally skilled to build it from Senegal. And what we want in this specific project as well is to go to Guinea, because anyway, Guinea said that we want to the same, because we are the same. We are the same, and the Gambia as well. So what we will do is that if we want to deploy to Guinea, it will be locally made. It won't be shipping from America to Africa. It will be locally made by the local people, to the local people, and to address a global challenge, which is having great compost and reducing emissions, etc. So the perspective is we have to go to the principle of the subsidiarity, so we can address really from a bottom up approach the real tools to hit the button and to go through the success way. That's my point of view.
Thank you. So I think to summarize, in terms of its increasing local capacity, right? So really looking at it and how can we increase local capacity in the local skill set, having local auditors in order to enable independence, I would say. And with that independence, in order to achieve that, there is still a stream of financing that is necessary. Rich, do you have any ideas on how we can get that stream of financing to these local people in order to increase the capacity over there and in order to finance actually the growth that is necessary locally?
It's the big question, isn't it? Who's going to pay? Yes. Is the question. And ultimately, I think actually my colleague Stephanie Russo, who's here in the audience today, was commenting yesterday, everybody's here talking about everything but the demand side. Talking about the supply side and everything's wrong with the supply side and all the infrastructure needs to be put in place with Article 6 and all that stuff. But ultimately, in fact, it's on the shirt. Every ton of CO2 that's emitted should be compensated for. And that doesn't solve all problems, but focusing really strongly and giving seller countries the tools that they need to engage really well on the demand side and to make sure that companies are having the confidence to meet their emissions reductions, in net emissions reductions in those, least developed developing countries, is I think one of the unsolved problems so far. We're so focused on, it's been mentioned lots of times in this panel already, integrity and transparency. In the end, someone's got to pay. That someone is the polluter. And I think we need to work a lot harder on not only making that case that if you pollute, you pay, but giving those polluted companies the confidence to be meeting those net emissions reductions in the places where it really matters.
Thank you so much, Rich. Discussing about the tools that are necessary. So the tools that are necessary in order to get the financing to the right places. And obviously we talk about this a lot, the same way that we talk a lot about the market supply, and we don't really cover the buyers. What kind of tools do these buyers actually need from your perspective, looking at it and bridging it to more practical perspective? And I'll allow you to answer that first, and then maybe Raphaël to jump in behind that.
I think it's really what they're looking for now is, again, going back to the same topic again, it is that confidence around the integrity, in particular the benefit sharing. If I finance a credit and there's a community benefit sharing agreement, am I confident that those that those dollars are ending up in the right place? And so we mentioned a few times in this panel a way in which you can make that completely transparent and an unbreakable revenue chain back to the community every time a credit trades isn't just the first time, I think will go a long way to giving those buyers confidence to participate. And Raphaël, what would you say?
So that resonates with like the first digital forum we ran in Sali in 2022, where it was mentioned that the highest price that was ever like received from an African country selling their credits to sovereign entities from the north was like $13. And it came as a shock to me because I didn't know where to find this information. And I think it's like access that makes the difference, because there are many different like entities working around the scene that have limited sources of information that are like most of the time buried deep into obviously like flat files like PDF or like database that are like paywalled or things like that. And in terms of tools, obviously the big buzzword of the moment, which is definitely like a transformational item, is AI, where like obviously in the future you're gonna have like a carbon chatbot at every corner that's gonna be able to like resurface a lot of information that is buried in. But I think after that it's a question of like what do we do with this information and how it is relevant to the different parties. And for that, at the end of the day, we need access. And you know, you were mentioning earlier about like pension funds, about like different like demand side that we're finding difficult to finance projects, but at the same time they have no difficulties funding like fossil fuel projects. It's kind of like the financing for I mean like sustainable actions is much harder because we get like much more scrutiny. The other case we know perfectly well how it's going to play out and like what's going to be the benefits. And after that, like you get cartels that actually like manage to like get the price at the level that they desire, but that's another story. But like to get back to your answer, I think we need first the food that can feed like all the different tools that needs. And in terms of technological advancement, when you look just at Earth observation, the improvement of technology, the improvement of the resolution of the satellite in the sky, the improvement of like some satellites that are launched for specific designs, such as like methane observation and things like that, is offering like an advance that is like exponential. For instance, like Sentinel satellites are now like almost at the point where they have like enough like backward information in order to make the development of RED projects much faster than what it is. And this with like the pool of talents that are like increasingly developing like new tools is going to create like a mainstream effect that's going to be able to bring like more results in terms of deployment. And the other thing is like digital tools enable scalability. Like the project in Senegal is kind of like the hardest part is the pilot, but after that, like we hope it's going to be like copy paste and being able to actually like keep evolving the process over and over. So at the end of the day, I would say that like it's kind of like we're in the kitchen with all the ingredients, but we don't know which ingredients to start like putting in first.
And I would just add the infrastructure regulation wise also helps on the demand side, right? So Gabon has recently passed their legislation around carbon markets. DRC is working on theirs. Nigeria has some climate change legislation, which gives the buyers some confidence that there's a structure. Whether it's perfect or not is a different question, but at least they know the rules when engaging in that market. So I think that also having the regulation and the legislation, the policies and the frameworks in place allows the buyers to have a little bit more confidence in the market.
Yes, definitely. I think we are on the same page, but that was my point. What I wanted to add, we just have an event, the Carbon Alliance Hub, Innovation Hub, we launched at Abidjan. We were talking about that. I mean, the regulation and the governance structure can enhance the way where the North is seeing it, because it is a question of South or North, whether I know that Rich has another opinion about that. But look, if the real truth is that when we talk about the need, we are talking about the NDCs. You know, the commitment in the NDCs, people have to fulfill it, right? But in reality, when we talk, this is the North which really need to compensate because they have the commitment in the NDC, but it will be very difficult and it will cost more for them to engage solutions in their country or in their territory more than to really implement projects in the global south. So this market exists because there is some type of disequilibrium between the south and the north when we talk about pollution. So the polluters has to, you know, help somehow, but it is for them as well. So it is a win-win situation. But what if we have a global south coalition? And it will really trigger the market. We're not talking about transparency. We're not talking about auditability or accountability. We are just saying, what if the West Africa have a common rules and regulation and institutional scheme and governance? What if West Africa and the global South, Latin America, have a common strategy and talk and position, and to see the global north and we can talk? What if? To understand better, we just have to make a correlation between the traditional trade of banana. What if all the countries which produce banana talk together and say, you know, we are the banana owners, let's fix the rule. Yes, just the OPEC of banana. What if? So, you know, it will be another discussions, because we are not talking about a market. It's a seller's market.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So if you are talking about the seller's market, you know, so the rules will change, and even for the finance perspective, the talk gonna change.
Yeah.
And that's the key questions I think we can really ask for them, for ourselves, and to see exactly how to go through it.
Thank you. Rich, any last words before we go off to questions?
None of us go to questions.
Very interesting panel, and I think we shared a lot regarding the local needs. We shared a lot regarding the coalition need, about uniting. Does anybody have questions or things they would like to clarify? Thank you. It's not working. Alexei.
Thank you for all the inspiring speeches you made. It's been a real pleasure to witness this panel. So I'm really inspired now. Like, what are the next steps? What shall we all do, like, to make this happen?
Great. So, yeah, thank you for that. So we are we're developing what we call a climate capital mobilization accelerator. There are many accelerators, but the idea is to kind of be a hub of, you know, these types of initiatives and get all of us in the same room so that we can be talking in the same direction. We have a call we call the Sharing Strategies Africa call, where we have climate leaders join. We would love if you guys would join that call. We share our initiatives, we link up on that platform, and we allow each other to really partner for advancement of these projects. Also, African Carbon Market Initiative, you know, partner with us, join in the battle. We have different streams. The two streams that naturally evolved the most this year, we just kicked off last year at COP, was the country carbon market activation plans. So we've been engaging with governments across Africa to help support them in their development of their legislation and regulation. So we're engaging consultants to help the governments in the different countries. We're engaging project owners in the different countries to help develop these, because it really helps when you're developing the strategy kind of like from the problem right on up. Like if you, I gave Rich and Raphaël a problem earlier. You have 10 hectares of land that your grandmother gave you. It's forested. Do you cut it down and do, a farm? At this point, it makes them money. What is the business case for them not to do that? How do we get carbon credits involved in micro projects like that? Aggregation, but these are that we need to kind of take it from the real life problems that we have into, these grander solutions. So really just supporting us at the Climate Champions, participating in the initiatives that we have, and really bringing your expertise, bringing your solutions, bringing your innovative problem-solving minds to the table really is what I think the next step is in my view.
Sorry, I think the next step is to start. In Sonaget perspective, we have to walk the talk, not to talk the walk, right? We have to start, and we already started. I think if we have a demonstrative project, it's concrete, and we can, as Raphaël mentioned, it is we cannot talk about scalability. So we just have to start. And what I mentioned as well, to start based on the principle of subsidiarity, because we cannot do all the same thing.
One thing. So I said that the carbon market activation plans. The second thing is that we move forward on the MRV, the local MRV. So we actually are having capacity building sessions for local auditors and lawyers starting in January 2024 to help bring them on board and to fast track the process to become a verifier, which sometimes can take up to 18 months. So we're bringing it down to 6-month window that people can come and interact with this program in order to bring that local capacity on the ground.
And Alexia, I would go a little bit away from the digital theme and make it more of a human theme. We were able to invest in the Senegal project because we met the team in person. We've been to Senegal on the ground, but we have to do like thousands of, we've got to multiply this stuff by thousands. But people still want to be closer to the outcome and closer to the transaction. So what is it that we have to do to bring those financial investors who would invest through us, who would invest directly, closer to people like, Jacinda and Idrissa on the ground, so that they can feel they've got the confidence on the digital tools. They've got to get closer to the outcome. How do we get the money closer to the people that are making it happen? That's a question, I guess, rather than a next step. But the next thing we're going to do is work out how to get people closer to the solutions.
On my side, I think I would say that there are a lot of accelerator, there are a lot of different environment. There's a lot of complexity in this market. There's a lot of complexity in the digital side, and what we need to be able to do is pack this up into one package that we can deliver, as you say, from the bottom-up approach to the people that are actually crafting things with bananas, so that they can understand it without having to go into the nitty-gritty details of what is inside. It's kind of we talk about accelerator. We have a car, we build all the pieces together, nobody knows how an engine works except an engineer, and we just need to be sure that when we press the pedal, we go forward. And the only issue with the car is actually it's only limited to maximum 5-7 seats. So we need to build a bus, a big bus. So that's what digital can empower and can help us to go further, faster, and better.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Let's press the pedal and move forward on the bus and get the money to the local communities and to the people. Raphaël, yes, exactly, to charge the bus. Electrically charged, obviously. Raphaël, Rich, Idrissa, Jacinda, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That's right.